Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Price from the Open Infra Foundation, and I'm here to host today's episode of Open Infra Live. This is an online series where we talk about the latest advancements in open infrastructure from both a development, a commercialization, and an adoption perspective. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to be zeroing in on the development of OpenStack, who just released the 29th release yesterday. So I first want to congratulate the over 500 contributors who made OpenStack Caracal become a reality yesterday. It's a huge milestone for the OpenStack community, and I could not be more proud to be part of it. So today we have several of the community leaders who actually led the development with their teams of some of the features that landed in OpenStack Caracal to kind of talk about what those features are, answer any questions that you may have, and talk about some of the future plans for the 30th release, Dalmatian, that will be coming later this year. So we have a great lineup today. They'll be popping on later this episode. But for now, I just want to say welcome, and we will be accepting questions throughout the episode. So if you have a question about a particular feature, or if you just want to know something more about a project or component of OpenStack, drop into the chat wherever you're streaming this episode, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. Before we get started, I do want to thank the Open Infra Foundation members who make things like Open Infra Live, as well as the development of OpenStack, a reality. We have several or hundreds of organizations that support the foundation, but who are also employing developers who contribute to the releases like Caracal. So if you have team members that want to get involved in building the next generation of OpenStack software, please reach out to some of the folks that are on today's episodes and get your teams involved, because it's definitely a community effort, and we appreciate everyone's involvement. So yes, today we're introducing Caracal. It's a really exciting time, and I couldn't be more proud of the community. Before we get started, I kind of wanted to talk about why I think that this release is coming at a really opportune time. So we are seeing a lot of OpenStack momentum right now, which for me is really exciting, as I've been working with the OpenStack community for over 10 years, and it's awesome to see when these opportunities come and the OpenStack community, from a development perspective, deliver features that users are eagerly needing to run new workloads on OpenStack. One example that we'll talk about probably a little bit today, but happy to answer any questions, is around AI. So everyone's talking about AI, and what we want to talk about is the infrastructure that needs to power it, which I think that there's some really good, cool features delivered in Caracal and within some projects that really deliver enhancements that will ease the support of AI workloads. But one thing that we can't develop the software without is feedback from you. If you're running OpenStack, if you're an operator or you work with operators, please encourage them to take the OpenStack user survey. This is a really valuable tool for the development teams to know what your priorities are, and so that they can make sure that they understand the requirements needed within the software itself to deliver the workloads that you need. So if you have ideas or questions or things that you want to really see, or you just want to share more about what you're doing with OpenStack, please take the OpenStack user survey. It's a great community tool for us to learn more about how we can better support you. But without further ado, I do want to pass this on to the contributors who've made this release possible. So to start us off, I want to introduce Ghanshyam, who will be bringing us updates from the OpenStack Technical Committee. Welcome, Ghanshyam. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Alison. Thanks for the introduction. So hello, everyone. I'm Ghanshyam Man, member of Technical Committee in OpenStack. I'll be giving you some update from the technical committee side and what we did in the Caracal release. So as Alison mentioned, this is the OpenStack Caracal 29th on-time release. And here's thanks to our release team to make all those 29th release on time. I remember, if I remember correctly, it has not never been delayed even a single day as planned. So thanks to release team and all the support team. Also thanks to all the 500 contributors from 70 different organizations who contributed in this release. Without them, it won't be happen. And I would like, as Alison also touched based a few of them, like we encourage like all of you to start communicating with community and involved in community. Even you are not a developer, contribution is not just about the feature development or bug development. There are a lot of other way to contribute to documentation, bug reporting, and more than that, I think the information, is the most powerful thing. So if you can get engaged in community, tell us like how you're using the project through user survey, through IRC mailing list, or like those kind of feedback and involvement is, a great for us to develop the stable software in OpenStack and provide new features. One thing I would like to mention about this release is this is the first skip level upgradable release. OpenStack Antelope, which is 2023.1, which is previous to previous release, that has been our first Slurp release, which means you can upgrade now. OpenStack Caracal can be upgraded from Bobcat, which is previous release, as well as from the Antelope release, which is the previous to previous release. So we have been testing this in upstream, and obviously if you of course if you do the upgrade, you encounter any issue, feel free to feedback us so that we can improve our testing. We can improve how we can make sure that slurp upgrade testing is happening in a good amount of a way in upstream too. Next slide, please. And few of the quick updates from technical committee side. We had technical elections completed for next release or next term for technical committee, 5 seats, and we have many new leaders and returning leaders in community to lead the project. So here's thanks to all those leaders, because that is to do in the as a leadership, and it's very important for our community and the software development. Next, one I would like to highlight is new stable branch support policy. Most of you might have known, like we had the extended maintenance support model. So we have one phase, like if you see in this table on the right side, we had the maintained, phase where we maintain any of the release for 18 months, and that is called, our supported release by upstream team. We do release them, we do bug fix them, and all those stuff. And after that, we used to have extended maintenance where we kept those branches up for maintaining. And there were few of the challenge we faced in that model, where but one of the most challenge was the communication, where the operator and users thought like it's a project upstream project team responsibility to maintain them, and upstream project team, or whenever we made the extended maintenance model, we always had expectation like the users, vendor, operator, they will come forward and help us maintaining them. And there is no clear indication like when those extended maintenance branch can go to end of life. So it was a little bit, the not that extended maintenance model didn't work out that well. So we came up with a new support model which we call unmaintained. And with that unmaintained term, we are thinking like it's a clear communication now to everyone that those are not maintained by upstream project teams, and it will be a external team who can be made up from the operator, vendor, or few of from our upstream project team also, because there is always overlap. So we have that explicit team to maintain them, and only slurp release will be applicable to be moved to the unmaintained state, and only same way like bug fixes will be done, but there will be no release on those unmaintained. And one more important things to note down from the namespace perspective. Previously we used to keep all those stable releases as stable slash, say, train, yoga, wallaby, right? So with this unmaintained model, we have renamed them to unmaintained slash train, unmaintained slash, say, Victoria. Train is in end of life anyways, so any of the branches will go to unmaintained. It will be renamed from stable slash release name to unmaintained slash release name. There will be separate core group. There will be one global core group and separate core group to maintain those. So if any of you think that those releases branches are being used in your product, customer, or services, so feel free to come forward and step up to maintain them. Obviously we'll be there to help you to know the process and all those stuff. With the current status, we have moved the Victoria, Valabizina, and Yoga to unmaintained, and any release before Victoria is end of life. There's a link in here as a TC resolution, so it has all the details, and there's a project team guide document also. So feel free to read that. And as I said, the best way is come forward, send us on mailing email, IRC, or join us in virtual PTZ if you are interested to help in those unmaintained branches. So we'll involve you in the process. Next slide, please. Yeah, and one of the project update, I'll say these are very important for us, and especially to communicate to everyone, users, vendor. So as I mentioned, we had the technical election for all the projects to select their leaders, and these 11 projects on website, these are the leaderless project, means there was no leaders to volunteer to came forward to maintain or lead them. Few of them have already been identified. The leaders like Freezer have the DPL model license, and OpenStack Charm and Skyline also have their few members volunteering now. So if any of these projects are impacting your product service, or you are involved in the in the community or using them, so we encourage you guys to come forward and help us maintaining them. Come forward to have the leader fill the leadership gap. PTL is not just the one solution that we need you, because you may sometime think that PTL responsibility has a lot of responsibility and all. So there is a alternate leadership model we have called distributed project leadership. So there also you can distribute your task and leadership activities there. And on the right side, current inactive project. So inactive project means they have not been active, their gate is broken, they're not releasing. So those are the we have 7 projects currently in the list, and because they have been inactive since previous release, we might be taking some action in this release or next release to retire them or deprecate them. So again, if any of you, your company, member using either of these projects, so it's a time for you to come forward and take maintenance of either of the project. And retired project triple O and OpenStack SAP are retired in this release. So yeah, next slide please. And this is a virtual PTZ, as you might know. So virtual PTZ is happening next week, and that's a great platform. What I already mentioned, like if any of those inactive project, leaderless project you are using or maintaining, feel free to join us in virtual PTZ and give a heads up. TC schedule, technical committee schedule in virtual PTZ will be April 8th, where we'll be meeting at 17 UTC to interact with the leaders, community leaders, to get some conversation with them. And obviously user, operator, and everyone is welcome to join that. Then we have TC specific topics on April 11 and 12 to discuss. So we again encourage everyone come and join us and give us feedback, discuss us, and have a chat with us. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. Hand over to Alison.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that it's a really great update from the OpenStack Technical Committee. And I think it really shows kind of that what the call to the community is. We need some more folks to come in and help contribute. So I guess one of my questions for you is, as we have a lot of organizations that have reached out and they're like, we want to contribute to OpenStack, and they see these projects, they see these opportunities to help define the next generation of OpenStack software. Like, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Yeah, so we have the first contact SIG there, and you can contact them. So in terms of the process, tooling, and everything, they can help you. And otherwise, like I'll say, the very easy way, we have the OpenStack discuss mailing list.
Mhm.
So we have, all the developers, operator, vendor has been involved in that communication, in that mailing list. If you just send us a mailing list, okay, I wanted to be involved in that specific project. So you might get more than one or two mentors helping you in the process, as well as in the the technical discussion also, how the project is shaping. So don't think that you need to be expert in that any of the project.
Hmm.
So if you are even a new, we have the cases in many times in past, like Mistral and other freezer also, where people just said like, we wanted to help there, but we don't know about this project anything. So that is also the case. So you can come and involve in community, and you can get all the knowledge from about the project. We have the IRC channel also, all of the project channel, technical committee, OpenStack dash dev discuss dev channel is there. So you can feel free to ping us, and we are distributed in almost all the time zones in world.
Mhm.
And some of us, might be contacting you and giving you the next step for that.
Awesome. Well, that is a great call to action. And I think that it can be intimidating if you're not an expert to get started. So, the first contact SIG as well as the mailing list are great entry points to get involved with the OpenStack community. So, I appreciate you for sharing those. And hopefully, anyone listening, if you want to be part of this amazing group, please reach out. We're a very welcoming, nice community. And I think that, we're building the next generation of open infra software. So, be a part of it. Well, thank you, Ghanshyam. If we have time for more questions at the end, we will bring you back.
Sure. Thanks, Alison.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to dig into the specific project components of OpenStack. And first up, we'd like to do OpenStack Nova. So welcome, Savan.
Thank you, Alison. I'm glad to see you, all of you, now back for the Caracal release. So I'm Sylvain, working on OpenStack Nova for a decade. And now what's about the Caracal release? So the Caracal release, for the Caracal release, we had 19 blueprints, feature requests, if you prefer, that were asked, and we accepted. So we basically accepted them. And eventually, for this cycle, we merged the implementation of 10 of them. For what it's worth, it's a good cycle for us because, like, the other 9 blueprints were not merged because of different points, but not because nobody was looking at them. About the bug fixes, at least we had 28 bug fixes that were merged. It was also a good one. It was also a good cycle because of that. So basically, kudos for the team about that. Ghanshyam already discussed about Caracal. As a reminder, at least for Nova, if you want, if you use Antelope, you can role upgrade your servers, all your controller services, directly from Antelope to Caracal, and it will work. And then you could continue to use your Antelope computes with the Caracal services, and it will work. When you want, then you could be upgrading your Antelope computes to Caracal directly, and it will continue to work. Next slide, please. So about what we merged for Caracal, we had, as I said, 10 features. At least the first one was about to make sure that you were able to live migrate, your instances with virtual GPUs. Nova was able to use some flavors asking about virtual GPUs since Queens, but where you are wanting to live migrate the instances, you are having some problems. No, Nova supports it. It asks QEMU to move the virtual GPU, and it will work. Also, maybe you know about GPUs, but new GPUs from NVIDIA are having SR-IOV support. The problem that we had is that because of the driver, we are having some bugs because placement wasn't supporting them. What we did on Caracal was to modify some stuff to be able to support the SR-IOV GPUs. For example, EA100 GPUs are now supported by Nova. Another feature that we merged was about the ironic driver. If basically before that, if you were able to have some way to have different computes and then some ironic nodes, you are needed to do some way about that, I would say. No, we are creating a new sharding model for that. Please look at our documentation to know how to do it, but basically it will work, and you won't have any problems like you had previously if you want to shard your ironic nodes. We have also a new like a new feature that provide a new performance for instances using VirtuoNet, about in between 20% or even more than 20% if you use VirtuoNet. So again, look at our documentation about that. Another security feature was about to say, okay, I want to opt in to make sure that if a token expires, then if, for example, if a user has a token that expires, then it can't just continue to look at the server console. And basically now, if you opt in about that, then automatically Nova will then close the server console. If you don't want to do that, that's not a problem. It's opt-in. But if you are afraid of some users still having some server console, even if the token is expired, no, it's no longer possible. Another feature, maybe you know about ability zones. Most of the operators were asking us, they were not exactly knowing whether it was possible to move an instance of a specific availability zone, because that depends whether for example, whether the user was asking for a specific AZ or not when he created the instance. So basically now you have a new parameter that's returned that tells you, for example, this instance is pinned to a specific AZ, and you can't move it from that AZ. That's because the user wanted that instance to that AZ, and if you modify that, then user will be wondering why. Another feature is about configurable memory address space for instances. That means that, for example, if you want to have a large memory for a specific instance, it would be better. Again, look at our documentation about that. And we have a lot of stability improvements. Like I said in this slide, we are detecting the max number of instances with memory encryption because we support memory encryption for instances. You are now able to provide some hostname instead of an IP address for an inbound address for a live migration. Something you wouldn't see, but basically we use QEMU device aliases, not QEMU, but Libvirt device aliases for block device management. So no, you should have less problems with block devices with Nova. Hyper-V driver is not fully removed because basically, unfortunately, the driver wasn't. I mean, we had any way to test it, so that's why we removed it. And we had a few tweaks about CPU power management that we provided on Antelope. You could look at the documentation. Next slide, please. So what we'd like to discuss at the PTG, we'll discuss about a few things. You could see that, like making sure that you can provide Nova services on top of Kubernetes, extending the memory encryption support that we currently have, some firmware support, and that will be stateless. I'm just basically telling what you can look, like open API schemas for API docs, basically for making sure that you don't need to look at the documentation, but basically, anyway, look at that. Look at those topics. If you want to have your own topic to the PTG, you're an operator and you're afraid to discuss with the Nova community, don't be afraid of discussing with us. We have that time. If you really want to discuss with the Nova team because, for example, you found some bug or you like to have other feature, discuss with us. You don't need to be around the PTG for the whole week. Just add some topic in the Datapad that you can see here, and then I will ping you so that we could be organizing some specific time with you for discussing about your own item. So again, don't be afraid of discussing with the Nova community because, as said by Gansham, we need you. We need you to understand what you exactly want us to provide for the next cycles. Voilà, that's basically it for me. Next slide, I guess, but yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I have a quick question, but thank you for the update. I think there's always a lot of momentum and activity in the Nova community. So yes, if you're interested or a lot of you are running Nova, please come participate. But I did have a question about a particular feature that we've gotten a lot of excitement over, and I just want to see why this is such a significant advancement in Caracal. So you talk about the live migration of instances with vGPUs. So before this was enabled, what did that process look like in the past? Like, why is this such a milestone for the Nova project?
Basically, when you want to use instance with GPUs, what you need to do is to provide a specific flavor. So once you want to migrate the instance, previously Nova unfortunately wasn't providing you an exception, and we should have provided the exception. So the Nova API was saying, okay, yeah, you can basically live migrate this instance and it will be working, but eventually some problem. The point was that nothing by Nova and QEMU was asking to modify the memory of the GPU in between two different computes. So what we did on that specific cycle was about to ask Nova, to ask QEMU to say, look at this specific vGPU from the source, look at that other specific virtual GPU from the target, ask them to discuss in between them, and ask them to pass the memory from the source to the target, like you do with like the other memories. And that's what we are doing now with Caracal.
Awesome. Well, that is such a great advancement. And I really want to congratulate the Nova project team and the community who built that together. So thank you for that. And thank you for the update. We'll bring you back at the end if we have some more questions.
Thanks, and thanks, by the way.
All right. So next on our list of projects that we're going to hear from is Ironic. So we heard a little bit about some of the integration with Nova from Sylvain, but now let's hear from Ricardo about the advancements with the Ironic project and the Caracal release.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Alison. I'm Ricardo. I've been a core contributor of Ironic since now 5 years. And I'm very proud to say that for the next cycle, I was actually elected as PTL. It's going to be my first experience as PTL. And I'd like to thank Jay Faulkner to be PTL for Caracal. And of course, all the contributors for it was a great cycle, Caracal for Ironic. So let's dive in the numbers for Ironic in Caracal. So First of all, I'd like to mention the number 10, which in this case is very important for us. Ironic first release was in Ice House in 2014. So happy 10th birthday to our Metal Bear, which is our mascot, the Ironic mascot. And well, as I said, we had a great cycle. Just look at the numbers. We had over 360 commits for a total of more than 30,000 lines of code, new lines, by the way. 30 contributors, 13 different companies, 134 bugs fixed. And I'm very happy to say that we also have some new contributors. I think it was 2 or 3. So that's great because we are always in need for new for new contributors. Next slide, please. So again, let's have a look at some highlights and new features of Ironic in Caracal. Probably the biggest feature was the support for UEFI HTTP boot. So UEFI is the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, and it's opposite as the BIOS, the old legacy BIOS. And so UEFI actually includes specifications for HTTP boot since 2015. So it was about time to give that to give that support. It is actually an evolution of the classic PXE iPXE boot. So it's network boot, but it just uses HTTP or HTTPS, which is way better suited for modern network infrastructures and security policies compared to the classic PXE. It can use encrypted connections, and of course it uses TCP, so much more reliable than the classic UDP. And also it doesn't use as in PXE or iPXE the TFTP server, but instead it uses only HTTP, which is definitely way less cumbersome to set up and maintain than TFTP. The second feature is the integrated node auto discovery and inbound inspection. This is in the line of simplifying and unifying the Ironic service, the Ironic and Ironic Inspector services. As part of the inspector functionalities integration in Ironic, we've added auto discovery and inbound inspection. The inbound inspection enables the inspection feature for the inspector agent now integrated in Ironic, and the auto discovery just allows to enroll new bare metal nodes automatically by booting using the IPA RAM disk, which is the Ironic Python agent, a special RAM disk that runs on a bare metal node and provide information in terms of inspection data, and then it adds the node automatically into Ironic. Then we added the support for OVN VTEP switches, both physical or logical, so they're now supported. OVN, which is the Open Virtual Network, uses a special VTEP port to control top-of-the-rack switches. And well, we added support for this feature, allowing the ability for bare metal networking ports to bind to tenant networks, and also gracefully moving the port between provisioning and network and tenant networks. Sorry. Another improvement was the attach and detach generic virtual media device to the Redfish driver. So the Redfish driver is quite fast, quickly, let's say, changing, moving from IPMI, and it allows to just mount virtual media devices with ISOs remotely. And in this case, we added a generic feature that allows to mount ISOs after a node is provisioned. This can be very useful in case, for example, you want to provide some data in an isolated environment, and we have like a virtual CD-ROM standing there, for example. Next feature is the HTTP basic authentication strategy support for image and image checksum download processes. So when the Ironic Python agent loads in a node and prepare the nodes to be provisioned, we have to load an image that is going to be written in the hard drive. And in this case, before this feature, it was possible to use a no-auth to just connect to the remote location of this image, while now, as a security improvement, we are using HTTP or HTTPS basic authentication for this process. And again, another one was the improved management of API resources as performance and stability improvement. Now Ironic is able to reserve some worker threads to allow interaction with the Ironic APIs and help preventing API calls to fail. Next slide, please. Thank you. So even more features. We actually had like a very very big cycle, a lot of things to talk about. So it was actually hard to choose between all of them. But anyway, let's continue. This is more light things. We have some CI improvements. Some basic testing for OVN-based deployments related to the support for the VTAP OVN. We now support TinyCore 14.14 for building the Ironic Python agent RAM disk as a testing RAM disk in CI. And also we are experimenting with CodeSpell as a test to like check and verify some common misspelling in text files. Very useful because it's dedicated to actual development languages files in this case. We also had a good improvement in the integration with MetalCube, which is a CNCF project. A lot of cores in Ironic are actually involved with that. It's a way to deploy Kubernetes infrastructure directly on top of bare metal, and it uses Ironic as like the main engine for that. So now we have the MetalCube releases that are tied to bugfix or stable Ironic releases. So the connection is even more deep than it was before. We added support for Debian Bookworm, which is great because Bookworm by default uses Python 3.11. We have this amazing collaboration with the Debian developers to maintain the OpenStack packages, the Ironic packages there. And of course, this helps a lot in checking potential issues when compiling the packages, and also some prevent some deprecations in the code. All right, and then we decided to deprecate a lot of old hardware drivers in favor of Redfish-based one. Again, Redfish is like the current standard for communicating with bare metal BMCs, the base management controller. So the old hardware drivers are slowly going away, and we have a lot more of Redfish-based drivers, and it's time for the old drivers to go away. All right, next slide. Thank you. These are some anticipations on, it's a quick preview on the PTG topics that we're going to discuss next week. So unfortunately, we have decided to deprecate TinyCore support because, well, it has unfortunately some limitations that in the years we're not able to overcome. There is no great support and, well, not a very big community. It's kind of cumbersome to support at this point, and we're going to explore some alternatives during the next cycle. So we'll see. It's kind of a call for help as well, because we use the TinyCore image as a base for the Ironic Python agent RAM disk in CI. So it's kind of impactful for us. Another big topic is the inspector merge with the main Ironic service. The process is already started, as you saw before in the feature presentation, but we'd like to finish the migration of inspector features to the inspection agent in Ironic directly. The final goal will be to deprecate the inspector and just use the Ironic services. And of course, we will have a lot more of redfish. Again, it's kind of a very important topic at the moment, since redfish is the standard, is not the standard to communicate with bare metal nodes BMCs, and we're going to continue adding support for its features. We're going to look also to new vendor implementations integrated in the next generation hardware like HP IDO 6 and Dell iDRAC 10. Next slide, please. Thanks. So I remind you all, next week we are going to have the virtual PTG. Ironic will be there. So if you want to know more about the future of Ironic, if you're an operator or a contributor, or even better, both, would be great to have you there. So please feel free to join us. And as you can see, I am also mentioning an Ironic meetup that we will have at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, at the beginning of June. It's going to be co-hosted with the Open Infra Days, which is going to happen June 6th. So again, if you want to meet us in person this time, I hope to see you there in Geneva. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Ricardo. That was a great update. And first of all, I want to congratulate you on being elected PTL. It's a great opportunity, and I look forward to seeing your leadership with the project and what you bring for Dalmatian. The list of features for Caracal was very long, but I mean, 30,000 lines of code. I mean, that's really impressive. So congratulations to the whole Ironic team. We did have a question from an audience member based on some of the plans for Dalmatian.
Sure.
So the question was around the deprecation of TinyCore. So do you have in mind like alternatives for TinyCore?
Yes. We currently have a potential candidate, which is Gen 2. I know the point with TinyCore is that it was, well, very tiny when we started working with it, and unfortunately it's not that tiny anymore. So that's one of the limitations that we unfortunately, like during the last cycles, we had to constantly increase the amount of memory dedicated to load the RAM disk for Ironic Python agent, and also we found more and more bugs that we had to fix ourselves with, like some tricks, some hacks, and we really don't want to do that anymore. Also because we want to focus more on developing actual features and not just maintaining maintaining the tiny APA. So Gen 2 has, of course, a good a big community, good support, and we can actually build very small RAM disks with that. So we're definitely going to explore that solution first. But of course, if there are like proposals from operators or contributors, we are open to that.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for the update, and we look forward to hearing more from you during the Dalmatian cycle.
Thanks to you, Edison. Thanks,
all right,
everyone.
So next on our list of project updates, we're going to be hearing about Manila. So please welcome Carlos.
Hello, thank you, Alison. Hello, everyone. I'm Carlos, the OpenStack Manila PTL, and I'm happy to share with you some of the Manila Caracal highlights, as well as some of the plans we have for the Dalmatian cycle, and also gently invite for you to join us at the PTG. So we had a bunch of new core features, and a bunch of them are pretty much related to usability, and I'll get to all of them. But the first one I would like to highlight is the support for custom export locations. But what does it mean in practical terms? Well, if you use Manila, or if you use like a shared file system, like at the end, when you are mounting a share, the mount path would become like a gigantic string that it would be very difficult to remember. So with this feature, we can enhance the usability and allow the users to specify a name for the mount path that they will remember in the future, and that name will be prepended with configured prefix or the project name. So that way, it's easier for the users to actually know what's going to be their the mount path of their shares, and it's easier for them to remember whenever they need to mount the share again. So that's one of the nice features. Another one is administrators being able to provide a reason while disabling Manila's service. So that one, it's pretty much useful when you are doing a scheduled maintenance or something like that, and you would like to provide a reason why that service is disabled, so that someone that's looking at it at this services list can remember in the future. Next one is shares and snapshots can now have their deletion deferred. This also can be configured by the administrators. And if the deletion of shares and snapshots are deferred, what does that mean? Well, we will send the request for Manila to delete the shares. And then Manila will say, okay, I'll release the quotas immediately of this share. And then we'll have a periodic task that will keep looking for shares that are in the state of the deferred deletion. And then it will try to keep the deletion of the shares going on later. This is a very useful feature in case, for example, you have scenarios of replication that the deletion of the share might take a lot of time. For example, you have to undo a lot of things under the hood, and yeah, you would like to avoid the users waiting a lot on the shares to be deleted. Another big win for the usability. Another feature is administrators can now configure the metadata keys that only they can manipulate. Well, this is also a very nice feature in case you would like to prevent some users to update some metadata. We currently support metadata for shares, snapshots, export locations that I mean, only a few things can be modified there, and only by the drivers. More like support for that is going to be enhanced in the future. And we also support metadata for share network subnets. So you have now a config option that you can specify which keys can be modified by regular users and then by non-regular users, and that keys will only be available for modification to administrators or someone with more privileged access to the cloud. And last in the list of new core features is the enhancements to the share network create workflow in the Manila UI. So we had a couple of changes in the Manila core, and the Manila UI was falling behind considering those updates. And what we are doing now is we are catching up on the changes on the Manila core. So now the workflow for share network creation will look a bit different, and later we will continue the work introducing the share network subnets workflows to the Manila UI as well. That is a very good thing, and also I think that's it deserves a mention. It was an outreach intern working with us on that feature, so that's a very nice thing, and we try to run internships all the time, and this is one of the things that we got done with the help of one outreach intern. For that driver features, for the CephFS driver, when you create Ceph native shares using the Ceph native protocol, this was a request from operators during operator hours and also other encounters we had with operators. They were missing, for example, you can have multiple file systems configured in Manila, and you might not know where the share ended up, in which file system the share ended up. And that wasn't available, and then you would need some help to look it up, and then that would make the mount of the share a bit more difficult for humans and also for automations. But now, well, we added that through a config option called mount options, and then the file system name will be available there. So automations and users will be able to easily pick it up. It's in the shares metadata whenever the share is created. Or now we also added, something that will add that to existing shares when you do the upgrade. So pretty useful thing. And also we had a couple of requests of that in the past. I'm happy that this got done. And for new driver features, the last one that I would like to mention is the advantage backup approach for NetApp backends. So we implemented share backup a couple of cycles ago, but now it got a bit interesting for the NetApps, people deploying with NetApp, because NetApps implemented more advantage driver approach, and you can use the NetApp hardware for backing up your shares and restoring your shares. So that's all for the new core features and driver features. Now let's talk a bit about some things that also happened in the Caracal cycle. We had a couple of deprecations of some drivers. The T-Agile driver, VNX, ClusterFS, Native, and NFS, and Windows SMB drivers, where we didn't deprecate them, we didn't remove the code, but we added a deprecation warning saying that we intend to remove these in the future. We decided to do this in a Slurp release because, our plan is to actually remove the code for these drivers in the next Slurp release. So in the 2025.1 we intend to remove these drivers. And also the deprecation of the standalone NFS Ganesha support in the CFFS driver. Please use clustered NFS Ganesha instead. And I'm saying this like it sounds like a deprecation. Please don't panic. Like, this doesn't mean that we are dropping the support for NFS with CFFS. We are only stating that in the future, in-tree dbus-based NFS Ganesha interface will be removed in favor of a more advantaged approach using the Ceph Manager APIs to create NFS exports. This new method will allow you to deploy NFS Ganesha easily with a highly available clustered service. So this lives and bounce better than having to stand up the NFS Ganesha server. So probably with Pacemaker doing high availability. So it's kind of like more advantage. We have been doing this for a couple of releases now, and we also intend to actually remove this protocol helper in the 2025.1 cycle. So it's just like a deprecation warning being added now, but we will deprecate this in the future. So for our plans to the Dalmatian release, finally, we have we merged the spec for integration with Barbican. So what does it mean? So this is backend share encryption, not frontend. So users would be able to create encryption keys on the OpenStack Key Manager service for Manila shares. Another feature we are planning is providing NPR for the ensure shares mechanism, which would essentially help people who are recalculating the shares export and also getting fresh configuration without restarting the Manila service. This also comes from feedback from operators. So I'll work on a spec for that, and we will implement that during this next cycle. Also, CERN is working on a driver for backups. It's called CBAC. They have developed this pretty nice tool, and they are trying to integrate it with Manila. So it will be an advantage driver backup approach again, and it makes use of the Ceph storage while backing up share. So another very nice thing. And also we are planning a couple of new features for the CFFS and the NFS drivers. So all of those will be discussed at the PTG again. So if you check on the next slide, please, there will be the information about the Manila PTG. So we will be meeting the Juno room, and we'll meet on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Sorry, not Tuesday. Only the other days other than that. The PTG agenda or the PTG Etherpad is available already in that link there. So if you would like to add a topic, please add there, and then I will reach out to you and we can discuss more details. So that's all I had for my updates.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And one thing I wanted to call out specifically that really stood out to me is, you've been talking about the Dalmatian roadmap, that CERN, an operator of OpenStack, is pushing something specifically for integration with Manila. And I think that really just highlights, operators, we welcome you into the development community, right? I think it's really important to have that involvement. If you see requirements, if you have needs for running your OpenStack infrastructure, please join the developers and get involved that way as well, because I think that's a really impactful way to contribute to the software too.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Carlos. We are running short on time, so I'm just going to go on to the next presenter. So for our last project update, we are going to hear from Rajat about OpenStack Center.
Thanks, Alison. So, hi, I'm Rajat. I have been the PTL of Cinder for the past 4 releases, and Caracal was my last release, and I will talk about it. We can first move on to the next slide, please. Okay. So, just a quick bunch of highlights. We added a new core to Cinder with Pete Zaitsev, and Pete has been around in OpenStack. I mean, his contributions go way back to 2012, and he is also a core in Swift, so he's well known in the community. And he has been contributing to Cinder for the past 1 year, and he has like a good number and quality of reviews and a bunch of features and bug fixes. So it was a great addition to the team. Other than that, we had like 42 commits, and these were not small commits. If you take a look at the line of code that were changed, it's above 14,000. So it was really good. And we had 23 different companies that contributed with 63 different contributors. And you might see that the contributors number is exceeding the commit number because we take reviews as a contribution as well. So a bunch of people have reviewed the patches in Cinder, and that adds to the contributors. So yeah, great things about the Caracal cycle for Cinder. And moving on to the next slide, we had a bunch of drivers that were marked unsupported. So if you see the list of these drivers, 3 drivers from Dell and 2 Windows drivers were marked deprecated. And the reason for deprecation was we didn't have active CI support for them. And even we talked to the vendors, like Dell told us that they are not planning to maintain these drivers, the Storage Center VNX and Extreme IO drivers. They are focusing more on the PowerFlex, PowerStore drivers. And if you want to use these drivers, there is a configuration option in Cinder, enable unsupported drivers, which you need to set to true to notify that you are aware that you are using an unsupported driver. So yeah, moving on to the next slide. So we had a bunch of features, driver specific features, which I thought would not be very great to mention because they were very specific to their drivers. And we also had a bunch of improvements in our NVMe and fiber channel area. But this one felt the most important to me, since in the user survey, we have seen a bunch of most of our I mean, the people that deploy OpenStack usually prefer Ceph and RBD as their storage solution. So we have a new feature in RBD, which is the trash functionality. And the main problem case we had was like when you create a snapshot from a volume and then create another volume from that snapshot, you are not able to delete the snapshot because it has dependency on the volume. And it worked for all the drivers except RBD, which was a big issue for a lot of people. So we finally have fixed that issue. Now you are able to independently delete any volume, any snapshot, and it is made possible by the RBD trash functionality. So to take leverage of this feature, either you need to enable like trash purging on your RBD side. So your RBD keeps on checking like if some RBD image is trashed, then it will take care of it, like remove it. And in Cinder, we have this config option, enable deferred deletion, that enables this trash functionality. And we can see like when we delete a snapshot which has a volume dependent on it, we tend to flatten that volume, which might be a very storage consuming operation because we usually do copy on write clones in RBD, and now we are flattening the whole volume, so it might take a bunch of storage. And if you are performing concurrent operations like 10 snapshot deletion at the same time and 10 volumes are getting flattened, which are over like 1 TB, then it might put a lot of load on your system. So we have this new configuration option, concurrent flatten operations, which will limit the number of these operations that will happen in your deployment. So it defaults to 3 for now. Yeah, so moving on to the Dell Mission PTG, we have a new PTL, John Bernard, and John again has been contributing to Cinder for a very long time. He's a core reviewer and he's very active in the community. So he will be leading the PTG this time. And we are conducting our sessions from 9th to 12th April, which is Tuesday to Friday, from 1300 to 1700 UTC. And the room is Newton. If you follow this PTG link and you click on the sender tab in the Newton room, then you will be redirected to the Meetpad link where we will be conducting our PTG. So it is like a very easy way to enter the PTG and for other projects as well. And yeah, I would just like to encourage you to add more topics and give us feedback more on our project. Yeah, that's pretty much it for sender.
All right, well, thank you. And I know this was your last cycle after many serving as the PTL. So I just wanted to thank you for your leadership and getting the Cinder project and the team to where we are today. I think that we even had someone call out the excitement around that functionality you just provided. So thank you. I think your leadership was very impactful on the OpenStack project.
Thanks, Alison.
Yeah. So those are all the projects that we had today. So I wanted to wrap up the episode with a few more links and information just on how to get involved in the OpenStack community, as well as, you know, what there is to do. So every single presenter today talked about the upcoming PTG. For those of you who might be new, I think we had someone say in the chat that they're new to OpenStack. The PTG is called the Project Teams Gathering. This is where all of the different project teams within OpenStack, as well as other open infra projects like Kata Containers and StarlingX, and even other open source communities that integrate with our projects like OpenOiler, come to talk about the latest, you know, features that have been developed in their projects, any feedback that they've received, and then start working together on plans for the future releases. This is a great opportunity to really see the breadth of OpenStack projects where you can get involved in. So as you can see here on the slide, we have lots of different teams that are going to be meeting next week. Registration is free and it is held virtually. You know, one of the things that I'm most impressed by with our community is how global it is. You can see in the comment section, we had people from Sweden and Puerto Rico and Korea. We had presenters from Brazil, France. You know, I think that it really, it's one of the most exciting parts of our community. So wherever in the world you are, the PTG is a great place to come learn more about the different projects that you may want to get involved in and what their plans are so that you can start being part of the solution and building the next decade of open infrastructure. Please join us. It's a great opportunity to get involved. We also have other events that are more like conference style, where you can hear how some of these projects are actually being used in production, or there are also still some highlights there on some of the development plans that you can hear from presenters like we had today. The first one we have is an Open Infra Days Roadshow, we're calling it, in Europe in May and June. We have, I think it's 5 Open Infra Days now, as well as some supporting meetups. I know that the CERN one was mentioned, but these will be happening throughout Europe. So it kind of gathers the local community to discuss what the latest trends are around open infrastructure, what some of the open source development opportunities are, and just what the future looks like. So registration, sponsorship, and speaking opportunities for all of these events are available on openinfra.dev/days. And these are, and we dropped a link into the chat if you would like to get involved in any of these events. Another event that we're really excited for this year is the Regional Open Infra Summit Asia. We've held an Open Infra Summit for the past over 10 years, but this year we're doing it a little bit differently, where we're working really closely with the regional open infra groups within Asia for them to host the event, supported by the Open Infra Foundation. So the Open Infra user group in Korea is very active. We actually have a few of their members in the chat right now who have been watching along, but they've held several successful Open Infra Days in Korea. And so we're excited for them to launch the Regional Open Infra Summit in Asia later this year in September in Korea. So this is another great opportunity to meet with the community, learn what some of the regional trends are from wherever you are in the world. So it's not limited just to folks within a particular region. So the CFP is open with a deadline of May 29th, and registration will be opening very soon. You can find more information at openinfra.dev/summit. And we hope that we see you at one of these upcoming events, depending on how you want to get involved in the community. So thank you for tuning in today on this episode of Open Info Live. The recording will live on YouTube and LinkedIn, so please feel free to bookmark it and share it with folks who you think might be interested in the latest developments of the OpenStack software. Until next time, see you around the Open Info community.